Hey, this is Francis Ruiz, and you're watching The Spotlight Kid.
We are joined right now by Francis Ruiz, drummer from the band Buckcherry and the Albuquerque native.
Yeah.
All right. Francis,
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Of course, from Albuquerque, but how you got started, how old you were when you first started playing drums, and kind of just a brief history of your life.
well, I mean, basically, yeah, born and raised in Albuquerque. I was playing in bands around Albuquerque, actually, with you. Actually, we started, it was like 15 years old or something like that. I think is when we did, 15 or 16 is when we did our first big performance opening for the Descendants. And, and it was all good from then on. It's like I never stopped playing, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And, anybody that knows me knows that I've just been diligent with playing and always involved in something. So, so, as soon as I graduated high school, which is West Mesa High School, I moved to LA like so many people have done, and, just kicked it around there for a long time. I had the opportunity to play with a lot of cool names and other people and stuff, and, did some recordings, and it just raised the bar for everything for me. And then, as a lot of people know, I got involved in, I did a record with CeCe DeVille, and that was on Sony Columbia, and that was kind of the first thing that got me out there nationally, as far as national touring and being on a major label album and that sort of thing. And so that was kind of cool, and that was in 99, 2000 when we did that. We played Woodstock 99 also, which had a lot of other great bands, and that's infamous. And so I got my tour legs, basically right around there, as far as on a national level. And then I played for about a year with Great White, and that was also in 2000, 2001, just a short period of time. And then from that, I kind of got behind the scenes, as a lot of people know. I started drum teching, just kind of out of a fluke. James Kotek, who was the drummer of the Scorpions, called me and just asked me if I would be, consider to go out and play with him. To go out and drum tech for him. And I was like, well, hell, it's a Scorpions tour the world on an even bigger, scale. And the Scorpions have always been one of my favorite bands anyway. So it was just like, how could I say no to that? And at the time, Samantha Seven and Great White, I wasn't doing that anymore. So it was kind of like looking for something. I was playing with some other people. Actually, when he called me, I was playing, doing like a cover, AC/DC cover band kind of thing with John Corabi and Robbie Crane, who's now in Black Star Riders, and Kerry Kelly, who was in Alice Cooper. So we were kind of doing this AC/DC thing. And so, but he called me and I went on tour with him and ended up getting behind the scenes doing drum teching for a really long time, actually. And, I kept playing the entire time and still doing projects and stuff. I was in the band 40 Cycle Hum, that had Rocky George from Suicidal Tendencies, had Mike Duda from Wasp, had Mark Zavon, who later did Kill Devil Hill, with Rex Brown and Vinny Appice and all that stuff. So that was a really cool thing to be involved in. We had an album out that was on Fishbone's label, and but it just never really got off the ground. The music scene was changing around that time, and it just never really, the second that we actually got on the shelves in the stores, like a Tower and everything, was about, just a few weeks before all the record stores decided, oh, we're not going to sell CDs anymore. We're just closing. So it was kind of a weird point of time to actually be doing stuff like that. And unfortunately, we didn't ever get out, which I thought we should have. I thought the band was great. And but you know, and then you know, so I kept working behind the scenes, and then you know, I finally got this opportunity to play with Buckcherry. You know, so I'm really stoked about that, and you know, it's kind of gone full circle, and I'm just, you know, grateful, stoked, ecstatic to just be able to play again. You know, because that's what I've always, you know, that's where I started. That's what I've always, you know, that's been my passion. That's what I want to do. So it's
yours is a very interesting story, and something that, you know, mutual friends and myself have been following for quite some time. We're all very proud of you, but I don't think a lot of people. I think a lot of people know about what you've done and your accomplishments, but I still don't think a lot of other folks don't, and that's why I appreciate you coming on and doing this with us, because it's really, it's key, it's essential, and you're one of New Mexico's, you know, sons, and that's awesome. I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate you on your nuptials with your longtime girlfriend. Congratulations!
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So, and also, I do want to take a step back and ask you just kind of a basic question, really. Who and how did you get started with playing with drums? Who was the one influence that you know? How old were you, and who was that one person that got you going on that?
Well, I mean, you know, my uncle, who is still actually a drummer in Albuquerque, a great drummer, jazz drummer, and he's actually, he plays with a couple bands out there. I think he I just talked to him the other day, and he says that he plays with a band called Exodus, which is out there. I guess it's not the Exodus that we know, obviously.
Right.
But I guess there's a Christian band called Exodus. You know, Exodus is from the Bible and everything. But they go out and they play stuff like Tower of Power and all this really cool stuff. And
oh, cool.
So he was always the guy that set the bar for me as far as playing, because you know, he's not a rock drummer, so he always had this finesse and stuff like that anybody else that I knew that was playing didn't have, you know. So I mean, it was just like, I always aspired to, you know, he's one guy that I always wanted to impress and stuff. So, you know, and I, you know, I was happy to hear that he's still at it. But my uncle, you know, was definitely the first person. You know, he got me started, gave me a snare drum, and we would challenge each other, that sort of thing. Yeah, so basically it started from that, you know, and of course, you know, getting into bigger bands, you know, guys like Tommy Aldridge has always been one of my, you know, top major, you know, inspirations, and guys like Mickey D, you know, guys like Charlie Benante, you know, all these really great guys, you know. It's stuff that guys that we all listen to, you know.
What is it about drummers and Albuquerque? Of course, the late great Randy Castillo, Marco Nunez, guys like that. What sort of influence did these guys have on you as well that helped prepare you for your career going forward? You know, in a funny way, I've followed the path of Randy Castillo quite a bit in a weird sort of way. You know, I guess, you know, the scene's really not that big, and if you kind of go the same route, you're gonna eventually come across all these places where you know, it was, you know, it was always a place where Randy obviously, you know, blazed his path through there before I even got there. You know, he's about 20 years older than me, or so he definitely laid the groundwork for a lot of stuff like that too. And you know, when they put the auditorium, our school auditorium, under his name, I got up there and I spoke, and also Jay Shallon got up there and spoke, who's also from Albuquerque. You know, Jay's playing with Yes and Asia, and I think a few other things. Another great drummer. He was in a band called Hurricane, if anybody remembers that. Remember those guys, yeah.
But you know, we all got up and spoke. But at that time, you know, I was saying the fact that Randy was a native, you know, Albuquerque, New Mexico guy, just like me, and he went out and he did it. You know, I remember my uncle actually took me to go see him the first time, you know, when Ozzy played in Albuquerque and Metallica was opening, you know, and we went and saw that. And, you know, at that point it was just like, okay, here's a guy that's from here. So it instantly put in my head, okay, it's possible. You know, it's not just something that happens to everybody else, you know, but you have to go out and you have to chase it. You know, it's not going to come knocking to, you know, on your door. Nobody's looking for you. You know, you have to go out and let them know that you're there. and and do all the right things. So, but Marco, another great drummer, and his dad, he comes from a musical family. His dad was still is playing, and my dad was a big fan of his, so he used to go. So it's really cool that it's this family community. I know a lot of Randy's family as well, and we all grew up together. And then especially being going to West Mesa, all the cousins and relatives and stuff like that. It's cool. And I got to know Randy a little bit before he passed. Which I was grateful for. But it just goes to show that if you go out there and you stay diligent and you just chase something, it can happen. You just gotta don't ever stop believing.
Right. Yeah. Your work ethic, it's a testament to your work ethic. And I mean, man, we've always known that you're a great drummer, but what you did, what your accomplishments are incredible. I mean, we can go back on the resume a little bit. Like I said, you teched for the Scorpions, Ted Nugent, Great White, Motorhead. You were even on the documentary about Lemmy Kilminster, which was awesome for me. It's one of my all-time favorite bands. Yeah. You played with 40
I got to play with Motorhead too. I filled in for Mickey D. I don't know if to do that. But
Calgary show, right?
Yeah. What's that?
It was the Calgary show, right?
Yeah.
More dates involved with that.
What? I'm sorry?
Was there a few other dates involved in that with Motorhead besides the Calgary show?
Mickey D, which was flattering to me. Mickey D actually asked me if because he had booked himself on this TV show, this reality TV show, Swedish reality, like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, where they flew him to the jungles of Malaysia, and he had to survive basically for I don't know how long it was, like 3 weeks or something like that. But he had booked the show before Motorhead had booked the next tour. And so when the tour dates came in, he was like, "Oh man, he's like, I'm not going to be able to do this." He said, "But he says, I want you to do this." Which by itself, Mickey D is one of my the guys I looked up to too. Listening to King Diamond way back in the day, it's like the stuff that he was doing was, to me, it was like over the top. It was like, he's so for somebody like that to have the faith in me to actually fill in for him was amazing to me. Then you add the fact that it's with Motorhead and playing with Lemmy, and Phil, and it's just like, it's incredible. So, but he wanted me to do the entire 2 week, but it was like 2.5 weeks run that he was going to be missing from it. But of course, it was really up to Lemmy. And at the last minute, when Mickey didn't tell Lemmy anything until the very last minute, because he's like, I know how Lemmy is. He goes, I want to close the gap of opportunity that he'll have to find somebody else. Because if I tell him now, he's going to be looking since now of anybody else that can do it. Because Lemmy was the kind of person that you could never suggest anything. You couldn't tell him what to do. He would never do that because he had to believe that it was his idea, kind of thing. So Mickey was like, I'm going to wait till the very, very, very last minute to tell him that I can't do the tour. And then, he's going to kind of have no other choice than to take you. And he goes, because I know that you can do it, because you're the perfect guy for it. And so he did. But then at the very last minute, he also ran into Slash. And he told Slash what was going on. And Slash told him, well, why don't you call Matt? Matt's not doing anything. And so that's what happened. So Matt Sorum did the bulk of it, but turned out that Calgary show I was able to do. So that I was still really grateful for that. I mean, and that was just killer. I would have, of course, loved to have done more shows. And I'm sure Matt would have loved to have just stayed there forever too. So, but it's just one of those things. We both got the chance to play with the legendary Motorhead and Lemmy, and so it's all good, man.
Of all the characters that you've worked with, like Lemmy, like C.C. DeVille, like Ted Nugent, like guys with Rudolph Schenker and Klaus Meine, Scorpions, which one of those guys impacted you the most, and why?
Well, it's you know, recently I toured with Slayer for the last several years too. That's the last band that I was actually working for before I started playing with Buckcherry. Before that, I was doing Black Label Society. But you know, I've worked with Thin Lizzy. I've worked with, who else? I mean, the list goes on and on. But
Who's who?
I have to say that I absolutely admire, respect, and love Zack Wilde. You know, he's somebody that, of course, I love what he did musically. You know, with Ozzy, he played with Ozzy, and to me, that was, you know, the ultimate, you know, gig and everything. And but Zack, being able to tour with him and just being able to look, you know him on a personal one-on-one basis, and how he just rolls with everything, how he handles everything, how grateful he is, how he doesn't ever play the rock star. You know, he knows where he comes from. He knows the opportunity that he has been afforded because of the lineage of what he's done. You know, playing with Ozzy, and he takes every day that he does. You know, it's important as any other day that he does. You know, whether it's a theater, whether it's a smaller place, or whether he's playing the Enorma Dome. You know, it's like he goes out there and he lays it all out there all the time, and he doesn't ever complain about anything. He's gracious. He's so grateful that he gets to play, you know, and so I learned, you know, just a lot about touring and life in general, just from getting to know him and listening to his stories and watching how he does stuff. You know, if he gets stuck in a middle seat, you know, I've seen guys throw fits and act like, you know, complete prima donnas. Not Zach. He'll just be like, all right, you know, and he'll just do that. And you know, I really respect that. You know, there's a lot of people. You know, the biggest names that you can possibly think of, guys like Tom Araya and stuff like that, are just the biggest hearted sweethearts that you can ever possibly imagine. You know, and so I really do respect that, because it teaches me, you know, a lot of how to handle things and how to process things, you know, really. But you know, especially from somebody like that's accomplished so much, and they're just, you know, very, very humble, you know. So
nice. All right, let's fast forward to 2019, and maybe even latter part of 2018 when you joined Buckcherry. How did that process go down?
Well, you know, somehow I got onto Stevie's radar, and we started kind of a dialogue, and just basically out of the blue, you know, Stevie called me, and I was like, whoa, you know, what's going on here? And, you know, I told Nikki, my wife, I said, you know, Stevie D from Buckcherry's calling me. She's like, that's kind of strange. I said, and immediately, for some reason, right in my head, I go, he's going to ask me to join the band. and I was like, wow, what do you think about that? You know, and so I got on the phone with Stevie, and you know, we just started talking, and he was telling me that, you know, that the current person that they were working with they were having some difficulties with him, and you know, he'd been watching me on social media and some videos that I was posting with me playing on various people's kits, you know, and Slayer and whoever else I was working for, and he, you know, I love him to death for the fact that he says he saw me and something kind of clicked in his head, like, there's our guy, you know, and so he called me, and that was kind of it. You know, we clicked immediately, you know, we just went forward with it, you know, and it's really great because, you know, these guys, they're all insane great players, and they're all insane great dudes, and we all come from the same place, and that's really important. You know, we all grew up listening to the same music. We all like the same music, and I think that was part of the problem with the guy that had been playing before. Is he was younger, and he was not not into it, and and of course I'm not talking about Xavier. Xavier's great. Xavier was a longtime drummer for 14 years or so, like that. And I know Xavier, and I love the guy, I respect the guy, and it's the same thing. We're about the same age too, and it's kind of a trip. Xavier and I, we get together, it's just like we're talking to a mirror, because we're so similar. So maybe Stevie kind of got that vibe from me too, or something, and it was just like, it was a shoe-in kind of thing, and fortunately everything's been amazing, and it actually did work.
So by the time this airs, you will have already played Albuquerque at the Sunshine Theater, but you guys are supporting a current album called War Paint. Mm-hmm. Very successful album as of late. It seems like you seem like a very nice fit. The chemistry looks nice, or feels good. Again, you'll have already played the Sunshine Theater, and there's a lot of questions I want to ask you about that particular album, but there's some technical stuff, because one of the things that I find fascinating about what you all are doing is you've already done 100 and some dates. It's the third leg of the American tour, and you got Australia, you've got the UK and Japan coming up. Mm-hmm. From the standpoint of just jamming all the time, and you being a tech and having all that experience helping other drummers get prepared and keep them above water, Charlie Benante you mentioned, other drummers that are out there, how for you, what is your sort of regimen in keeping your brain steady and your chops going with this amount of dates all the time?
Well, for me, it's the more that we play, the better it is for me. Paul Bostaff, drummer from Slayer, we have this discussion all the time too, because Slayer goes out and they don't really play any more than 2 shows a night in a row. So he's like, man, he goes, just when you're, that first show back after a day off, you're a little bit tight. The second show, you're getting into it, and by the third show, you're just like, yeah, everything's loose, everything's flowing, and stuff like that. But Paul never gets to have that third show. You know what I mean? So he's like, oh man, so he really has to even go take his gear into his hotel room on days off and just sit there and play. For me, I had another friend say, oh, are you really feeling your age now that you're playing so much? I was like, no, man, it's opposite for me. It's like somebody going to the gym. If you're regular going to the gym's not a big deal. You go, you do your workout, you feel great, you leave. If you take any time off from going to the gym, you go back and you try to lift weights that you used to lift with ease, and all of a sudden they feel super heavy and twice as heavy and stuff. So for me, it's keeping me in shape. The more that we play, it's keeping me in shape, and not just me personally, but the band as a unit. The more we play together, the tighter we get. And that's really cool. I listened to some of the first videos of some of our first shows, and they were good. But I compare them to the videos that we did recently, and it's a whole different animal. It's just morphed into something, and now we're that freight train that's rolling together on the tracks and just doing it. So it's really cool. I eat healthy. I don't drink. I don't do anything. I mean, I'm a caffeine freak, if anything. But it's for me physically. I try to get as little sleep as possible. It seems, and eat healthy and drink a lot of coffee and just do a lot of stretches. And try to stay in shape. That's the thing for me.
What are your weapons of choice as far as what you play on stage, maybe what you play in the studio? Are there any differences, cymbals, just the kit as a whole?
Yeah, I'm very, very, very fortunate to be able to play exactly what I want to play, which is Yamaha drums. I have this beautiful oak kit, live custom oak, and sounds amazing. I mean, I get compliments all the time. Paiste cymbals, of course, which is something that I've played from day one. influenced by all the other great Paiste players that we know. Charlie Benante is a Paiste player. Paul Bosef is a Paiste player. Dave Lombardo, Tommy Lee, Tommy Aldridge. You know, the list goes on. John Bonham. You know, with Paiste also, I play ProMark drumsticks, which I've played since early on too. They've always just felt the best to me. They've always lasted the longest. They've always been balanced, and I use Evans drum heads, so that's really cool. I'm fortunate to be able to, you know, have these companies back me, and it's the companies that I actually want to back me. You know, if they didn't back me, I'd still be playing them. You know, pretty much. You know, that sort of thing. You know, I'm not going to play a cheaper kit just because somebody gives it to me for free. You know, it's like that's what I'm going out there. That's how I'm representing myself. And really, that's why wouldn't you want to play what you want to play? You know, otherwise, to me, it's like, you know, these people buy really cool couches and then cover it with all this stuff, and they never even see the couch that they're sitting on. You know, it's kind of pointless. But yeah, so, and Humensenberg drum cases protects all my stuff beautifully, and that's pretty much it.
As far as your drum style, how would you describe it? You're a power drummer as far as I'm concerned, because you beat the crap out of your drum set, and you sound powerful, and you're a very good backbone to whatever unit that you're jamming with. And this is very, you know, this is from experience, not just back in those old punk rock days, but just watching in other bands like Cynical Side. I mean, just in everything that you've done. Is that a fair assessment, or would you like to add something different to that sort of description of what you do?
No, I mean, I just play with passion, you know, and if that's the way it comes out, that's what it is, you know. You know, I think that's the most important thing that anybody can play with. You know, there's guys with mad technique and stuff that sometimes you watch them, they have no passion, and it just kind of doesn't do anything for me. You know, it's like you see guys sitting there pouring everything that they have into it, and you know, that's what motivates me. You know, all the guys that I looked up to were that style of drummer. You know, I wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, you know, he's playing you know, some math equation, and that's what impressed me. It was just the way he played, you know, and to me, you know, drumming is dancing basically. You know, it's you're moving your arms and your legs to music, you know, and you know, and that's what motivates you. You know, you know, I just play to that. You know, of course, I work on my technique. You know, of course, I want to be, you know, at the top of my game, and I want to be somebody that my peers are going to look at and be able to respect and be like, yeah, freaking right on. You know, and so far that's what's happening. But you know, I think passion is the main ingredient in it all. You know, play music that you really love too. You know, you could be the best drummer in the world and be playing music that you're not feeling, and it's just not going to do anything, you know?
Right. So I follow you on Facebook, and I'm fascinated at a lot of stuff that you post. So oftentimes when you're on tour with different bands, or right now with Buckcherry, what is the favorite place that you've ever been to, or maybe the favorite venue that you've ever played, that you're just like, when you get there, you're like, I'm stoked. I'm you know, I'm happy. I'm experiencing this again, the food, the culture, all of that stuff, or even just the venue, like I said.
Well, you know, I love venues for different reasons, of course. Food, there's a number of venues that I absolutely love to go to just because of the food that I can get there. Right.
I know you're a sushi fan, right?
Well, it's sushi and just seafood. You know, you go up to the New England states, you know, New Hampshire and Maine and that area, and you just get lobsters, and catering, it's just all the lobsters you can eat lobster until till your stomach hurts and you vomit lobster. But of course, I love that. You know, but there's definitely some iconic venues out there that when you just walk out into and you look at the place, you're just amazed. I've always loved Jones Beach, which is up in New York, just because the seats are so steep that it just looks massive. Of course, for me, any place that's a big place, I love. um, when you see the sea of people, it moves you. There's some smaller venues that are cool to play. That just for the historical reasons of being able to play there. A long time ago, I got to play at CBGB's. There's just about nobody there. Cynical Side actually played there.
Oh, nice.
There was nobody there, but it was still awesome to play CBGB's.
Right.
Just different venues that Led Zeppelin played, and we got to play that venue recently, which is the last venue that Buddy Holly and Richie Valens and all those guys played right before they got on the plane and left. So we played there, and that was kind of a really cool feeling just to be on that same stage in that same room. And because when you watch the movies, it's like that's when they really made it. That's when they were going, they were touring, and so that as a movie watcher, you're like, oh, that's what fame looks like. That's what success looks like. That's what it looks like when you're really happening. And so being on that stage, it was just kind of fun in that sort of way to see that. And then of course you go into the dressing room and you see all the writing and graffiti on the walls, and you see all the guys that were portrayed in that movie, but the real guys, that left their marks on the wall and drew and all this other stuff. So that's kind of fun.
Nice. Man, you have accomplished quite a bit, and you've lived life for 3 or 4 people. It's amazing what you've done with the bands that you've played with. I've seen you on David Letterman with Samantha Seven. I've seen you, on the Motorhead documentary. But what is the one experience that you've had that stands out to you the most?
What I'm doing now. That might seem too easy of an answer, but honestly, it is. Because I have such a different perspective of everything. I'm older now. I don't see things the same way as I did when I was in my 20s and stuff like that. And to be able to have, I had that little bit of taste of it, 20 years ago, and then spent the last 20 years crawling, trying to get back to playing again. And again, I never stopped playing, but being able to play for a living and play with guys that are amazing and play songs that I really love and play where the band actually has an audience and around the world, and playing music that you see people out there singing the songs and having a great time and stuff like that. That's what I mean as far as playing, because you can play every day anyway, but that's what I always wanted to do is what I just described to you. So now that I have the opportunity to do this again, I'm just absolutely so much filled with so much gratitude, and that I get this opportunity to do this. So this is something that there's no guarantees in rock and roll. You can try your whole life, and for me to started there, gone through my period behind the scenes and to be able to make it back. Now it's like, now I've arrived, it kind of thing to me. So that's it. It's as inspiring to me as anything that I've ever done. It's the same thing as, the first show that we did with the Descendants, or the first time that I stepped on a tour bus, for my own band, it was just like, whoa, the first big festival we played, the first this and this it feels the same way. It's that sweet,
Very nice.
So,
a couple more quick questions. I know besides family and besides green chili and all that good stuff here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, what is it that you miss the most? And what is sort of a ritual that you do when you come into town?
Well, when I come into town, my ritual is definitely to go to either the Frontier or Golden Pride and buy a 6-pack of burritos. or go to Garcia's, or just get some great New Mexican food. But you already said. Besides that, no, nowadays, it's getting to see my mom, and getting to see my family, and I don't really get to see my friends as often as I did now too, because you get older, your parents now take all your time, and so that's the way it's been, in the last several years. I lost my dad actually this year, while I was on tour, and that was something else. It's like the first day that we started the tour, I got a call from my sister, and that was that, just right after sound check. So it's just like, wow, okay, now what? So I had to just keep my composure and get through the music and stuff. But I played for my dad, and I knew that he, however cheesy it sounds, it's like he would have wanted me to just have a great show, because my dad was such a music fan, and so that there's that. But Albuquerque will always be, home to me. All my friends are still there. The great thing is that, just like you, it's like we can not talk for who knows how long. It could be weeks, could be months, could be years. And the second that we talk again, we're just right back to being 15 years old, and nothing's changed. It's just like it's the same. It's the same thing. We're the same dudes, and we're still friends. And I love that. I'm still, always grateful for that.
Awesome. And and I was thinking about back in those days when we would practice in your living room, and your mom would make us breakfast burritos, and we'd do some wild stuff. It was a lot of fun, and your little sister would go and mess around with your kit, just craziness. And we're all very proud of you, man. We really, really are. And looking forward to seeing you. And again, this will already air by the time, or air after you have already played the show in Albuquerque. But looking forward to it. Looks like you're having a lot of fun, and it's a very good fit. And from a chemistry standpoint, I've watched the videos. You get some good FaceTime. I saw the Bent video and the Right Now video. Tremendous stuff. So lastly, what I'll just ask is, what advice do you have for the up-and-comers, the kids that aspire to jam and make this a part of their life, a livelihood for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just keep at it. It's like a lot of the advice that we hear all the time. We think, oh yeah, it's the same thing, Oh, make sure you practice, make sure you keep at it, and don't listen to anybody that tells you can't do it and all that stuff. But it really is the truth, because you will, if you go after it. Like I said, nobody's coming looking for you. Nobody's knocking at your door. If you go and put yourself out there and go after it, you will have opportunities come your way. And you have to be prepared when those opportunities come your way. If you're not prepared, that's going to make a big difference. And that's going to say a lot, because you never know, that one missed opportunity that you have might be people that somebody's going to call to say, hey, I know that this guy, what's he like? And you go, oh yeah, he came really unprepared. So it's like you could really screw yourself up too if you're not prepared. So by that, you have to be diligent with your and disciplined with your practice. You got to make that a priority if that's something that you're going to do. Otherwise, if you treat it like a hobby, it's always just going to be a hobby. And if you take it serious, then you have the potential to move on up to something else. But rehearse. Practice, take care of yourself. You can't be a mess. You can't party all the time and do all that and think that anybody's going to take you serious, because, ultimately people want people that are responsible, and, and be prepared when the opportunities come your way. And once you do get the opportunity, do everything in your power to hold on to it. Not let it go. Don't screw it up. There's a lot of people that get that chance, that shot, and they blow it, because their mind explodes, or I don't know what they think, but they just lose it, you know. And so when you get that opportunity, hold on, you know. And again, you know, don't listen to people that say you can't do it. I don't know how many times people told me, you know, what I was doing was stupid, and you know, you see your friends getting other kind of jobs and stuff, and you know, making more money than you for a long time, you know, and you start questioning, oh, am I making the right choices and all this other stuff. You know, really, the only person that matters is yourself, if that's really what you want to do. You know, all those people that say anything aren't really part of your daily life, and it's really not going to make a difference. If you don't do something to appease them, what does that get you? That still just gets you nothing. You know what I mean? So just keep doing what you're doing. You know, even you know, like I said, I finally got this chance again. But between, you know, the last thing that I did and this chance, you know, I heard 8 million times, oh yeah, you're already too old to try to start doing it again. You know, and it's not. You know, there's always opportunities, and you know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you do.
All right, Francis, man, you are an inspiration, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And continued success on this tour, and much continued success beyond, above and beyond what's going on this particular tour and everything with Buckcherry and all your other endeavors, man. This has been awesome, and appreciate it, man. We will see you on Saturday night, man.
Very cool.